All right, let me unmute there a little bit. I'm starting like Ray Flowers does sometimes here. No disrespect. My name is Justin Fensterman, and welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily here on the Elite Plus Network, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Hit the open twice right there, canceled it out, but that is how we're starting. We are coming in hot tonight. You can find all my work at FantasyGuru.com. Do a lot of NBA work, and I do as well some NFL work too. A lot of fun coming up on the site, including, as always, the DFS NBA write-up. I'm always on Wednesdays, and I've got one coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun. A big-time split slate that we have that I'm going to discuss, and that is 7 games on DraftKings, 9 games on FanDuel, including those late games. A lot of injury news to talk about right here. So let's get it started because we got Armando Marsal going to be stopping by here in just a little bit to help preview tonight's slate on FanDuel and DraftKings. But before we do that, I want to talk about Watch Along Wednesday, because for those that are always hanging around in Discord, by the way, you can find me on X and Instagram at Fensty Sports, FENSTY Sports, and also in the NBA betting and DFS NBA Discord at Fensty. No more underscore, just at Fensty. I was able to change it. I could have probably changed it a year ago, but I did not. So instead, at Fensty, that is where you can find me, always hanging around. We're at about the final month of the season. I think tomorrow is the official day of the regular season. Just 1 month left, but that does not mean that the content's just going away. In my opinion, we've only just begun, because we get to see that consistency in these playoff series. Yes, you have the play-in tournament that spots us a few days, but then we get 7-game series that'll take us all the way through June. So we're not shutting it down just because the regular season shuts down. That is not what we do. So get ready for some playoff action, because you're going to get it right here, home of the Elite Mafia, FantasyGuru.com. We'll say this, what jersey of the day I have the old school, what was the Los Angeles Lakers jersey style after they moved out from Minnesota to Los Angeles. They used to be the Minneapolis Lakers. If you go back in time, George Mikan there. I think maybe even Elgin Baylor too was right before they moved, Jerry West, but then they moved out to Los Angeles. And before they became the gold and purple, they used to wear the old school right there. And that's what I have. What jersey do you think I have? Kobe Bryant, because you got to have that Mamba mentality when you're talking about hitting bets, which we did a whole lot of last night at the good old FG. 3-0. I like a nice sweep right there. I'm not very rah-rah. Look at me. I'm the best in the world. What a sweep. No. Okay. We're happy. We're very happy. We want to be happier, though, when it comes to our betting. And over the last month and maybe even month and a half of action, we've been doing a great job at Fantasy Guru. I'm in there putting in bets. I'm also see Jeff Nance put in his alt line parlays too, which have been getting hot. He's heating up, as they'd say in the NBA. And speaking of Jeff Nance, you can catch him on Elite Sports all week long on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, SiriusXM Channel 87. So make sure you catch him at 3 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Ray Flowers, who's normally on Fantasy Sports Daily Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, noon Eastern. He hosts the show with Jeff on SiriusXM, so you can catch him on Elite Sports. And I got to actually hang out with Ray and Steve Phillips the other night on SiriusXM for one of the FSGA Champions League fantasy baseball drafts. So if you're looking for draft coverage, because we didn't just cover their draft, we actually made sure that we got as much projections and predictions out there, not only from the fantasy side of it, but from the wagering side too. I tried to sneak in a few futures questions too to the boys, so that for anyone out there that wants to bet futures or play season-long fantasy baseball, get yourself in gear, make sure you go to the drafts folder on demand on that Sirius XM app. That is what it is there for. So happy to see all of you here. It's going to be another great fun show. Going to talk about some plays, big-time strategy. But before I do that, let's talk a little bit about Watch Along Wednesday. Watch Along Wednesday has been a fixture for the last couple of years at FantasyGuru.com during the NBA season. And every single Wednesday, I'm in the Discord for a few hours, normally 2.5 hours, from about 7:10 once I'm done helping everybody build lineups until about 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm hanging out, I'm watching games, I'm giving reactions, and I'm taking any kind of questions you have. And also podcast topics, because I do have my weekly NBA podcast at fantasyguru.com. Fensty's Basketball Diaries. You just go to the Elite Plus section, and then you will scroll down. You'll see, of course, Jeff Manz's One Man's Opinion podcast comes out every week. You'll see this show where you can catch past episodes of Fantasy Sports Daily. Armando Marsal, my guest, The Mind of Marsal. He has about 2 episodes that come out each week. The Race Guru Thunder Hour as well, with our boys Richie Mileto, who's been on this show before, and Sean Angles. So you can catch all the content. The content never sleeps when it comes to the Elite Mafia, is pretty much what I'm saying at this point. And I say all that, little shameless plug, because tonight, if those that were in Discord saw the message I had yesterday, I changed the chat, the official chat, from Wednesday to Tuesday. So I actually was in there last night. If you're looking to see some of my reactions on the games, and also I talked about tanking teams that I'm going to be covering big time on the podcast this week, teams that we got to be wary of. One of them on the slate tonight that I'm going to speak with Armando about. But I talked all about that last night in the DFS NBA chat. I hang there and I give my reactions there. I think sometimes people get confused when it comes to Watch Along Wednesday, because I know that there's live betting going on in the betting Discord at Fantasy Guru. So I stay more in the DFS NBA Discord room, and that's where I put all my reactions, because if there's a bunch of live bets being talked about, I don't want my analysis to essentially water it down. That is a betting channel. There is reactions going on to the bets. Mine is more of a generalization, a reaction from the DFS and wagering side. So I keep my comments in that DFS NBA Discord room. So maybe you missed the chat yesterday. You could scroll up and see all of my reactions there and some of the analysis on teams that are going to be tanking for the final month of the regular season. So that's kind of how I do things. But tonight, I will not be at Watch Along Wednesday. That's why I did Team Building Tuesday yesterday. But that doesn't mean that Watch Along Wednesday doesn't have to happen. We're a fun basketball community here at fantasyguru.com. Jeff Manz is hanging out, reacting to what's going on. I see him in there during his bets throughout the night. So if he's in there placing bets, you know you'll be able to hang with Pappy Manz and some of the other Elite Mafia that are also placing bets. So just because I'm not there for one night, and I'll try to log back in, tap back in later on in the night, maybe while the late games are going on. But the reason for that is, and here's where I could give another plug here, the reason for all of that is because, as you see by my hat, and I never wear hats like this. I'm more of a, you see me before, I'm more of a backwards Ken Griffey Jr. cap wearing guy. But tonight, because it's the first time it's happened in about, I want to say 16 years, because 16 years ago, I was sitting there at my alma mater, American University, when AU defeated the Holy Cross Crusaders to clinch their second berth ever to the NCAA tournament. I was there at Bender Arena in Washington, D.C. I was there the year before when they won it and they made the tournament for the first time in a really disgusting, crappy game against Colgate, who they just beat in the semifinals in the Patriot League. So I say all this because I never get to see my school in glory. That is Division I, low mid majors. American has a chance to go to the big dance, and they haven't hosted a home game for the Patriot League final since I was a senior in college there. So with that, I am going to, doesn't mean I won't be in Discord on the way to the game or anything. So don't worry about it. I'll be in Discord. Armando will be in Discord. But tonight, I will not be at Watch Along Wednesday. And that is why I did the chat last night. We shouldn't have any other issues moving forward with that. We're very good about keeping it every single Wednesday as long as there was action to be talked about. But tonight is just one of those nights. I won't be there, but I'm not saying that it doesn't have to happen. You all are in there. You guys can react to what is going on, and I'll be the one this time to play catch up. I'll learn from you out there, because if you watch these games, you'll learn what exactly is going on. Even now at this point in the season, you'll learn what's going on in this league. I've seen a lot of you give your own analysis. Show me those confidence muscles that you have. And that's totally fine. You disagree with something I say, you find the analysis. I'm proud of you. if you're right and I'm wrong. It shows growth and it shows understanding and it shows that you put the work in to learn how to win. Why are we hitting bets now after for the second year in a row, a bad January, just for the most part, a bad January? Why have we gotten hot in February and March? That is because we stuck with the process and we've seen the consistency. These teams have played each other multiple times. Unless injuries and things have changed, which we have to identify, that's part of the job, especially if you're going to box score surf from previous games. You have to know who's in and who's out. A team's best defensive player could have been in. Like if I'm going up against Utah and I have a prop against Utah, I need to know, because of how they've been utilizing their talent, I need to know how to attack them if Walker Kessler is in versus Walker Kessler being out. So that's big right there. And that's when you box score surf, you have to make sure you know to find the trends and consistency, who's been in and who has been out. That's the big thing right there. And that's why I'm here, and that's why we do things like that. But that doesn't mean it just has to be me. We've been spending all season together. So I want you to react tonight in the Discord. I want to see what you have to say. I want to learn from you a little bit. And then I'll give a little bit of a reaction afterwards too. I record the games. I'll watch them a little bit later on. I don't watch all the games every night. You can't do that. You can, but you'll never sleep if you watch every minute of every single game. But what I do is I keep track of what teams I have exposure to and make sure that I watch each team a balanced amount, so I'm digesting a good amount of what I'm seeing and seeing these teams recently, because teams change after a little bit. Even game flow, pace, stuff we talk about. The Rockets, beginning of the season, Rockets are a very good team. Beginning of the season, they were running at a pretty fast rate there. The pace was high. As the season's gone on, they've slowed down. They've moved down that chart. That's why we have to look at how these teams have done recently when all said and done. So with that right there and with that in mind, let's talk about the big board for today here, because before Armando Marsal comes on, we're going to talk. And let me know, by the way, if you can't see this, and Ray has talked about this, StreamYard's kind of being a little bit different. I noticed that on the layout. So if there's something that you are not seeing, just do me a favor and let me know. Help me help you, essentially. But that's why I've got the hat on, my American University hat, because I'm very excited to go there, taking on Navy tonight. And I say all this, by the way, I keep saying I say all this, but let's get to it now. Our March Madness guide is out right now. And if you go to the link that you're seeing right there, you'll be able to get team previews that Scott Bonder, Ted Schuster, Russell Clay will be writing up. Discord access too. They did a great job, the guys, when it came to not only predicting the games in the brackets last year, but also betting the games too. I remember talking to Ted Schuster a few times when we had the in-game Elite Sports Show on Sirius XM. We brought on Scott one time. We brought on Ted a couple of times, and they helped us pick some winners there. And they're going to give their picks, full team breakdowns, and live streams are happening there too. All you have to do is go to that link and make sure that you purchase our March Madness guide and package there, because you get a whole mess of content for that. And I'm excited because if American University wins, I'm going to be checking the guide regardless. I dabble mainly in NBA, a little bit in college. I've watched more college basketball this year than I have in a very long time, and I have no freaking idea why. I really don't know. Wise people out there. I'm not in trouble with my wife or anything like that, getting kicked out of the room. That's not the case. Well, no, that's not the case. It's not the case. But I've just enjoyed it. And part of that is because my wife is a Duke fan, and this Duke team has been very fun to watch. I'll be honest, I don't know how they're going to get beat, because it just seems like anytime I turn Duke on, they're barely competing in the game. They're up by 20 or 15 the entire time. So I think it's going to be very hard. I mean, yeah, anything can happen. It's March Madness, baby. Dickie V, oh, type of dandy. I get that it's March Madness, but this Duke team seems for real. For real, for real. Not like, oh, it's Duke. They've got Duke. This Duke team has depth. And I like what I've seen from them. So I'm very interested to see what the boys think and Scott Bonder and Ted Schuster, and whether or not there's a team that can unseat them at this point, being a potential 1 seed, maybe even the top team overall. So I'm very pumped to see if American University beats Navy tonight. I will be there, so make sure you're watching. It's on CBS, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern. I'll be hanging out there tonight there too. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. American doesn't get an opportunity to make the tournament except for once every 10 years. They've made it 3 times ever, twice when I happen to be broadcasting for the team, did a little play-by-play back in the day in college. While I was there, they won my senior year, my junior year, and so I'm very, very pumped about that. So what's going on, Tony? How's everything? Tony feels, of course, man. Tony knows what it's like. Tony sees it. Tony, what he does is he takes a lot of info in. Perfect person to be an example for in Discord. Because there are some, and this is what Discord is for, that ask a ton of questions. Do you like the lineup? Yes, and then they retool. Do you like this lineup? And it's a little bit shifted. Tony kind of takes it all in, and then with about 13 minutes left to go, I'll get 3 lineups from what he's seeing in Discord versus the article, and then I'll get the paint art, old school word art, paint art, written A, B, and C on it. Fensty, which one do you like? I don't know why. It's one of my favorite things. Maybe you could stay. I have no life or anything like that. But Tony takes it in. He's not overly reactive about what's going on. Rest of the season, we're going to have teams tanking. We're going to get last-second annoying injury news. We just got to take it in sometimes, and that's why if you're out there and there are days where, well, my core isn't formed, my core 4 doesn't have all 4 players ready to go. We got to wait. We got to be patient. There's some of you that's like, let's go, let's go, let's go. We got to be patient, though, and we got to make sure we know exactly what we're doing. And we got to make sure that we have all that injury news. So Tony feels it's really great to see you. And thank you as well for always participating in our DFS NBA Discord. So the last thing I'll say about the guide, you've seen the link. This is exactly where it is. So make sure you go and you check that out and make sure you purchase it now, because you'll be able to get all those team previews. They're in the process too of those teams that are expected to get at-large bids. Conference tournament finals are this week, Selection Sunday being this weekend. Let's talk some NBA. We'll go over some of the injury news. And by the way, you see the teams in red, and you'll see this in my write-ups too, because we at Fantasy Guru make sure that we cover when there's a split slate like this. We make sure we cover at least the larger slate for those FanDuel players out there. But I'll make the write-up a little bit heavier on days like this where we have a 2-game differential in the slate. The Wolves Nuggets and the Knicks Blazers are involved in the FanDuel main slate, not the DraftKings main slate. Kind of disappointing because Denver's been a very easy team to read, whether it's attacking them or which players that you could trust on a given day. It's pretty much starts with a to Jokic or not to Jokic. So with them, with one of the higher totals of the day at 234 for you DraftKings players out there. And for those, full disclosure, by the way, that have asked me, I am mainly a DraftKings player. I like the interface better. I just like having the utility spot a little bit more. As much as FanDuel has become better with the flexibility factor of the positions, I feel that DraftKings is still a little bit easier to navigate when it comes to that. So I personally prefer DraftKings, but I'm writing FanDuel content, but I mainly play on DraftKings. So we've got the Jazz and the Grizzlies. Dangerous game that we have going on, but maybe not too dangerous, because with Memphis, they are dealing with a lot of their inside players being out. And this could be a perfect storm for the Utah Jazz, because the Jazz, who we don't know on a given day who's in and who's out, and how this team is getting not getting fined, and the league's just accepting this. They've been the biggest offenders so far of tanking. And I have no idea why. I don't know how they're getting away with all that they are, because they're going 5 out, it seems like, every night. So we don't know who's going to be in or out at this point. We really don't. I mean, we could even check the schedule and see if on the schedule, I mean, are they playing the next night? Because that's something else. Because now that we're in the final month, we're going to have to start thinking about this. More back-to-backs. So teams are going to be a little bit more sensitive with that. So I am not seeing Utah play tomorrow night, which is actually, you know what? I'll say this, which is actually a good thing. Maybe they're more willing to play some of their players, and it's not going to be as confusing, gives them a reason to rest half their team. So we don't know about guys like Jordan Clarkson or Lauri Markkanen. We should see John Collins and Walker Kessler. So I'm saying all this because Memphis won't have Jaren Jackson, won't have Aldama tonight too, which I've loved Santi Aldama for a mid-tier price, hanging at that 6K range. He's been gold, and he doesn't need to play a lot of minutes to be productive. So they don't have those two guys already. Zach Edey is questionable at this point. Brandon Clark also questionable. So it's going to be like Jalen Wells and the guards pretty much too. And that's now makes me think that even though it's a 12-point spread, that maybe, just maybe, the Utah Jazz have a chance of covering, or not even covering, but staying in the game long enough where we could get the biggest bang for our buck when it comes to the backcourt for Memphis. It's an incredible, incredible game flow. Solid, speedy environment. But I think with the Jazz having their bigs, and especially if Markkanen is active, I think they can hang in this game because the Grizzlies lack size, and that's something that the Jazz have a whole mess of. So I felt like I was going to ask Armando how he's handling this, but I know where I stand, and that I'm viewing Jazz Grizzlies, and I don't care if Zach Edey is in or out. Zach Edey's in, we look at him as a value. If Zach Edey is out, okay, so be it. I think that this game stays competitive enough. I've been thinking about this all day. A 247 total, I like it very much, and I'll like it even more. What I will hate is if all of a sudden at 6 p.m. Eastern, because I can't core these guys. I can't core Jazz players. They'll have no problem just ruling out Markkanen just like that, Collins just like that we've seen. Kessler we've seen. Jordan Clarkson we've seen. Colin Sexton for no damn reason we've seen. We've seen just about every starter benched. And so it's hard to figure out how exactly. But the good thing is, like I said before, no back-to-back. So maybe there's more of an incentive for them to play. And if we get the green light that they're playing, this could be a very stackable type of game. But it can't be until we get that confirmation. And I can't go into this article thinking from the Utah side until I know who exactly is in or out. In 2-3 hours from now, we can get news that half the team is being ruled out just because. And if they're fined and they're being fined under the table, well, they're going to keep paying that fine. So Anthony Davis not playing tonight. Tyrese, Maxey, Paul George, both of them still out. Going to have to talk with Armando in a second about the situation in Philadelphia. For those playing on FanDuel, Jalen Brunson's out. Here's one that's going to be a little bit tough, a stinger there for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So Jalen Williams hurt his hip, not J-A-Y, J-A-L-E-N. Big time Swiss Army knife of this team, could do it all. We don't know when we're going to see him play again. No timetable we're seeing according to reports for him returning, dealing with a hip injury. So he's going to be out in this one here. And other players that are going to be missing, Norman Powell is going to be out. Will Kawhi Leonard in the back-to-back second leg? We have to assume that Kawhi Leonard is going to be out tonight, so that could mean a lot for James Harden. RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley are out for Toronto, and also Scottie Barnes, who's dealing with a sprained hand. He is questionable for the game, and I'd be a little bit surprised. I'm still going to strategize like he's playing until otherwise. I'd be pretty surprised personally if he ends up playing, if it's really sprained that badly, but we shall wait and see when it comes to that. And then some of the other players as well from Toronto, Walter and Mogbo will be out, so there's some value to be had when it comes to Toronto tonight. And then some of the questionable players, Jayson Tatum, Trae Young. Young was in shoot-around. Barnes, like I mentioned. Kristaps Porzingis has been dealing with a weird virus, but apparently he is going to play tonight, but we need final confirmation. Rudy Gobert, PJ Washington, Lauri Markkanen, that's every night. Kelly Oubre, Devin Vassell, Karis LeVert, who's been providing solid value. He's questionable. Andre Drummond, Zach Edey, Brandon Williams, Alex Caruso, Jeremy Sohan, and Dante Exum there. So with that, let's talk a little bit more strategy for tonight's slate and bring on, you know him, you love him, you see him, you check out his content, you hear him all over fantasyguru.com. It is the one, it is the only Armando Marsal. Armando, what's going on, man?
How's it going, brother? Happy to be here on a Wednesday talking some hoops with you, man.
Thanks, man. I mean, again, you're not in the jersey again, man.
Sorry, man. I'm doing the sweater thing. The AC's pointing at me. You know what? I'll come in a tank top next time. Why not?
We need your air to break down again so we get a few weeks guaranteed of Armando jerseys here. So, Armando, you're going to be on the cheat sheet tonight. I am on the right. Is that's still locked in, right?
Serge is on the cheat sheet tonight.
He is.
Yeah, Serge is on the cheat sheet tonight.
Okay.
I'll be in and out of Discord tonight as well. Like I know you, I'm going to be in and out. Serge is going to be in Discord. So we got 3 of us, today.
Nice.
Swimming in those waters in Discord today. So
just tell me I'm not an idiot. I swear I read on the schedule that it was you. I feel like I missed this up.
Yeah. Initially it was going to be me. I did Monday, Tuesday this week. I was also going to do Wednesday, but Serge is going to do today. I got the article tomorrow. So we got full week of NBA for myself. So
no, that'll be great.
Free agency tracker, guys. If you haven't checked that out, NFL free agency tracker live on the site. Check that out if you haven't done so.
Let me ask you about one player, if that's okay.
Sure.
And tell me what you think of this, because I like this signing. And we can talk everything about what's gone on, even from the trade side with Metcalf, yada, yada, yada. But the Hopkins to Baltimore signing, I think this is the perfect receiver for Lamar Jackson, because DeAndre Hopkins is not a guy that needs to go 20, 30 yards out. That's not him. This is a yards after the catch guy, and he's a big, strong bull and hard to take down. Hopkins goes out like 10 yards, depending on the direction he turns. He's not going out more than 10 to 12 yards. For someone like Lamar Jackson, he can constantly threaten the run. And then Hopkins will be there a few yards away. Everyone will be coming at him, and then Hopkins will have the clear field. I'm thinking this is a nice signing for Baltimore.
Yeah, you have a veteran receiver who is a very good route runner, has shown that he could, produce regardless of the quarterback. Now is playing with an elite quarterback. I think he becomes a security blanket, right? I think that this is the kind of receiver that they needed there in Baltimore, something they've been missing. I don't think I think they've been missing it for a very long time, right? Like that's a kind of receiver that they haven't had here in Baltimore. They have the quick guys. They have the guys that could stretch the field. They have all of that, but they haven't had that, reliable receiver. It's been Mark Andrews, a security back. And now you have, the tight end and a veteran presence at the receiver position who can also become a security blanket. This makes this offense and this, passing game so much more threatening. It's going to be really, really fun to watch, in my opinion.
I didn't even think about this, and you brought up a nice key here, preserving Mark Andrews, and maybe fantasy players won't like to hear that too much, but the Ravens have been knocking on that door. I mean, this is a team that, and Armando, you can tell me if I'm wrong, and I believe I made this prediction. I thought that they were going to go to the Super Bowl last year, and they've been just so close, man. They were so close, and they've been building the right way. I mean, Henry, it was dominant, and the Cowboys looking so stupid for not getting him. And then you put him on Baltimore, and it's like, okay, well, Lamar Jackson's a runner. Are they going to really feed Henry? They fed that beast. He ran a crap ton. I don't know if you could curse on this, but I almost did. For the kids out there, I didn't. But now you're adding Hopkins there. Like you said, another veteran presence, been around the block. Just someone like Lamar Jackson, who's one of the fiercest runners in the league, having someone that could do so much just 10 yards out and then could create space for himself, man. I saw that. I was like, wow. I messaged Phil Backert about that. And I was like, whoa, that's nice right there.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks volumes of the front office in Baltimore, right? You said it. Like you said when you were talking there, like they've done it the right way. They've built this the right way. And they're just finding the right pieces, the right fits. Like these are the little things that these front offices, they're some of the best in the league. I think Baltimore is one of those front offices. And you're just seeing it firsthand, right? Like this is a team that's a couple of pieces away from, taking that next level and going to the championship, maybe winning a Super Bowl. And I think this is the kind of move that gets you that one step, closer to that goal. So I'm excited. And like you said, from a fantasy standpoint, this might not be great. Like Hopkins might not be a reliable every week, fantasy asset for fantasy managers. So we're talking football. Like from a football perspective, this is an elite signing, in my opinion. It doesn't mean that he's going to go for 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns. I'm not saying that. But you know what? When it's third down, 4 yards, and you need your guy, he's going to be that guy, I think, that gets a lot of those opportunities. So I think that's going to be a big plus for this passing game in the Ravens offense.
I'm going to put you in a little bit of a situation. 12-team fantasy football league, half PPR. You start 3 wide receivers and 1 flex. 7th round, you've already got, let's say, 1 receiver, or even you got 2 receivers. 7th round, you pull the trigger on Hopkins?
I think I do. Yes. As my wide receiver 3/flex, I'm okay with doing something like that. I think he's going to be productive enough, to get that kind of value. I think top 36, maybe top 40 in that range, I think is fair.
Nice. There we go. See, now I'm excited for the football season to start again. Dang it,
I'm already pumped, man. Like,
dude, I can't
this free
wait,
agency
man.
stuff. I'm having so much trouble. I'm like NBA. I'm going back and forth NBA, NFL, NBA, NFL. So yeah, this free agency stuff is fun for me, man.
Yes. By the way, some injury news to just talk about quickly. I mentioned with Porzingis there, he's been sick, really unknown illness he's been dealing with, but he's gone through shoot around, and that's good. Keontae George, we were talking about Utah a little bit. Keontae George, at least they give us that favor, already ruled out. Dude, you probably heard a little of what I was talking about with Utah, man. Yeah. Like tonight, that Jazz-Memphis game, I'm not out on Bane and Morant because they're missing a lot of size, Memphis. And with Utah, even if Utah's all of a sudden missing their entire front court, then I get a little bit concerned about how much they're going to play. But Utah's not fighting any kind of back-to-back or anything. But we're every game dealing with, is Markkanen going to play? Is Collins going to play? Kessler, Clarkson. We already know Keontae George is out. How do you handle Utah before 5 p.m. Eastern?
Yeah, it's very difficult to do, right? Like, you kind of have to play the guessing game with them. And I agree with you. So you don't have to fade Morant or you don't have to fade Bane tonight. But when it comes to the Utah, it's basketball at this stage of the season, right? For these teams, that you see this often, it's annoying. I think by now we're kind of used to it. So I usually stay away. Like, that's the way I do it. I usually stay away in these situations when there's a lot of unknowns. If you really like that situation, if you like the matchup, just have pivot options. Like, that's the way I handle all these. In general, when there is a situation where we have a lot of question marks going into it and it's a later game, I like to give myself some flexibility. And I don't wait until the news comes out. Like, I have like my plan. Like, okay, if these people are out, this is my exact swap. Like, that's exactly how I do it. So that would be my advice. Like, if you are planning on investing in that situation, just have a precise backup plan that you're going to pivot off to quickly, that you don't have to think about. You can do it in 2 minutes, go in there, boop, do it, and move on about your night. So that would be the way I handled it.
Yeah, tonight, if in that matchup, Collins I don't really focus on Markkanen as much. If Collins is playing, I'm going to be writing up Collins. If we find out those 3 guys are playing for Utah tonight and Utah's pretty much fully staffed, this is a big-time stackable game. 247 total. Fast as hell of a pace that you're going to have between these 2 teams. If you are deciding, Armando, between Bane and Morant, who've been very similarly priced, who do you tend to go with? Do you go Morant because you know he's going to have more time with the ball? Or do you go with Bane, who we've actually seen run the point good enough? We've seen him rebounding a ton for the most part lately, and they don't have really any other go-to scoring options at that point. So it's almost like the floor is safe for both these guys.
So in tournaments, I'd probably go Morant. And then in cash, I'd side with Bane. You're getting a little discount there. And then when you look at the month, Bane has exceeded expectations based on salary in 50% of the games, whereas Morant has done it in just 20% of the games. So at that point, I'm going to take the price discount and the guy that has offered the safer floor over the last month and go with Bane. But I do think, like, in tournaments, it makes a lot of sense to go Morant. The ceiling, I think, is much higher. And we know, like you said, like, we know what he can bring to the table. And we know he's going to have the ball in his hands. So I would do it that way. I don't trust playing both in cash. I know they're both in great spots. I would pick one or the other if you're going in that direction tonight. But I do think both are firmly in play. Both grade out really well for me here.
So moving from Utah to another confusing team, I think it was Sunday night or Sunday afternoon. I'm sitting there figuring out what bets I want to write up because we do have betting coverage going on for the NBA during the weekends at fantasyguru.com. I'm putting bets there. Mans is putting bets there. But I had put out 2 separate bets on Quentin Grimes in the afternoon or early afternoon, because Quentin Grimes, with all the injuries for Philadelphia, he's running the offense a lot more, and we've been able to cash a little bit. About 3 to 4 hours after I put in that bet, we get a note, and these notes aren't always true, but you don't like seeing them. We get a report that the Sixers are going to start to monitor the minutes of Oubre, Grimes, and I believe the third player was Yabusele. And I'm guessing Andre Drummond, if he plays, is also part of that contingent right there. Philly is in full tank mode at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out in a few games that they're deactivating both Paul George and Tyrese Maxey. But apparently Paul George is scheduled to come back, but I digress. From what I just said, Armando, how do you handle Philadelphia when they're on the slate moving forward?
It's really annoying. It's funny. That was Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, right? That you had that, yes, because I did the cheat sheet that day, and I had Grimes and Oubre. I think in my core, I had to redo my entire core that day.
What was I supposed to do? I mean, let me ask you, what if you were me? Because as soon as I saw that, man, there was a bad bubbling, going on in my stomach, as Howard Bender would say. I got the rumbly bumblies in my stomach when that happened. And I thought about, Armando, telling people, eat the vig, cash out. And I said, you know what? Maybe this is the day one. Maybe they ride this out. Can he still do it if he's playing 32 minutes instead of 36, 37? I think he could. So I did the math in my mind. I'm like, maybe from a volume standpoint, he could go over. Nope, missed both props, only played about 29, 30 minutes, and here we are right now.
Yeah, it was really, like, in that instance, I would probably say, hey guys, like, this news came out after we posted the bet. I'm not as confident in the bet. If you're in it, it's up to you if you want to, take the vig or not. Like, that's a decision they would have to make. But at least you're being clear and transparent about, hey, this bet was made and was decided before this news popped up. But like with me, it's lucky. It's fortunate because with the DFS side, it hadn't locked. It was like an hour before, I think, or like 45 minutes before. He played 27 minutes that day. Like, and then guess what happened the very next game? Did you see how many minutes he played? 39 minutes. It's
like,
stupid.
what the hell, man?
Listen, this is stupid. And this is the thing. If you like the matchup, tonight's matchup's a good one, right? This is a pace-up spot for Philly there against Toronto. So it's a good matchup for him. So this is the way I view it. I think he's in a great spot. I think when you look at the numbers, he's producing a fancy point per minute right now, right? You have to understand the high variance of those minutes. It can go from 27 to 39, like we saw. Like, that's the two ranges we have since they made this announcement. That's the kind of range you have to have. I would try to safely project him for about 30 minutes, 29, 30 minutes, maybe 31 minutes. If you want to play it safe, that would be my number.
You can't core him though, or
you cannot core him. You cannot core him, and I don't even feel comfortable with him in cash, if we're being honest. Like, it's you're walking a fine line. Like, when you have these kind of players, whoever's making the lineup decision, you have to understand that there's variance because there's an unknown that we cannot control. That's beyond our control. Like, we can never really control these things, but this is even more variance because now it comes to the minutes, and it's really, the coach wakes up today, he says, you know what, 32 minutes, let's do it. He wakes up today, he says 26 minutes. That's exactly what we're dealing with here. So it's basically someone else's decision of how many minutes he's going to play or not. And because of that, the statistics, the matchup, all of that kind of, it has to be thrown out the door to a certain extent, because we truly don't know what his, the number of minutes and the opportunities he's going to have. Like, we don't know that. It's a guessing game. So I leave these kind of players for tournaments. Yes, you can miss out on a massive game. I think he scored what? I could pull it up. I think he scored 50 DK points on the Monday was, 59.75 DK points, Fensty.
I was so mad at myself. I should have I was sitting there and I'm like, I got to tell people to cash out. They'll eat the vig. They'll be pissed off. They ate their vig, but they'll at least get more money back than when they lose the bet. And again, we don't know. Like, he said that moving forward the rest of the way, minutes monitored. Game 2, he's playing nearly 40 freaking minutes.
Yeah, it's truly, like, when you look at that, it makes, like, giving an honest opinion on that player very difficult, right? Because I went from having him as a core play to just a GPP play. On Monday, I loved the spot. I loved everything, but I could not core him. I just, hey, you're a GPP play. Like, I had him in my lineup, but I took the risk, right? Like, that's how it worked. Like, I took the risk, and I understood it. And I understand, like the thing about him now is now he's 7,600. Like, now you're talking about you're getting to that 8K range on a player that might play 27 minutes. Like, it's kind of with Zion when we were recommending him, right? Which we understood that the minutes were not there.
But he was volume producing.
Exactly. We don't know if we're going to get that here with Grimes. And that's the issue with me.
There is one player on Philadelphia at this point, Armando, that I am trusting for cash. And even for a core. I don't, to me, if you're, and this is talking the current version of the Sixers, not Maxey's back, Paul George is back. We know Embiid's not coming back, but this is the current. If this is what we're rolling with most nights for the final 30 days of the season, can you believe it? The season's over. It's regular season over in a month, man. I'll miss it already. Lonnie Walker is the one player I feel like we can, and he's going to start to get priced up more, and it's going to suck. But you know what, man? For the next, few games at least, I think we can ride it out with this guy in cash. And in a night like tonight where Toronto's missing key pieces and Philly's missing key pieces, he could come through big time in this massive pace boost.
He was a core play for me on Sunday. When I made the pivot, he was a core play for me on Sunday. He was also a core play for me on Monday. I agree with you. He was for you as well. I think we had the same core on Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
We had the exact same core, and everybody thought it was the funniest thing in Discord. Yeah, I wrote like samesies or something like that. Everyone was like laughing at me, laughing at us because but you know what, man? We've had like pretty similar cores the last couple of nights, and we've kicked some core ass. I'll tell you that.
It has been. The core has been kicking ass. You're absolutely right. But I agree with you because you're getting pretty safe minutes. His price is staying very, very low. And then you look at the production on a per minute basis, man, like 0.92. From a guy that's 4,300, all you need is 21.5 DK points to get 5x. I think it's safe to pencil him in for that, given the minutes he's playing. 27, 34, 30 minutes. I think you can easily walk into that 5x here with him. And a good matchup, you mentioned, is paced up Toronto, they're incredibly shorthanded here. We haven't even talked about them, but they're missing almost everyone here. I'm interested to see exactly how many players they have active because I think this is a spot that a lot of people are going to target tonight.
Yeah, one of those things is, and by the way, everybody's going to be focused on Toronto. Yeah. And we're going to be focused. And what would suck is if Oubre, who's questionable, doesn't play, then everyone's going to be on Lonnie Walker. And you know what, Armando? On a night like tonight, split slate, I'm eating the chalk with him. I am.
I am 100% eating the chalk. I'm not on it, but I'll tell you this: if I was on the sheet, he'd be a core play for me. I don't know if he's going to be a core play for you, but I think there's two guys right now that you could say core play, and it's only gonna take up 8,300 of your salary, and you're going to be able to spend up everywhere.
That's amazing. Dang,
the other guy's in this game too. He's on the other side. Lawson.
He's on the Toronto side.
Yeah, AJ Lawson.
Okay.
For me at 4K, I think the only problem with that is you have two shooting guards, so you're using the shooting guard and guard eligibility spots,
right?
On a 7:30 p.m. game. But man, I think we could pencil in Lawson for 34, 35 minutes, around that range. So
what about Shed?
He's another one. Yeah, I think he's great value too. I think Toronto, you have good value. He's popping for me.
You're right.
Pirtle, if he plays, do we know if Pirtle's going to play it tonight or no?
Pirtle, from what I'm seeing, is in, but he's the only one. No Barrett, no Quickly. I'm surprised Barnes hasn't been ruled out, considering he sprained his hand the other night.
He's not going to play.
Yeah, I can't see him playing. So those three are out. But then you look at the back. Jacoby Walter is out. Mogbo is out. They've got just a lot of guys. You might see a note that has 8 active Raptors tonight.
Oh, yeah. Grady Dick is out.
Grady Dick is out. Yes.
Yeah, they have a lot of people out. I probably if I think 2 to 3 Toronto guys are probably going to be in place simply because price. I think Pirtle is going to be like he offers obviously the highest seating, right? Like I think at 6,600, I'm okay. I think the matchup is good here. I probably have 2 or 3 Raptors, I think, given some of their price. Like Lawson really stands out to me, though. Like he grades out as one of the best value options on the entire slate tonight for me.
Let's talk about, I mean, and this is a matchup here that I'm definitely going to make sure I go back and check out. Potential NBA final, the NBA final that I think we're going to end up having all said and done. They're going to need Jalen Williams during their playoff run out west, but the Thunder taking on the Celtics here, Armando. We know no Jalen Williams, and then on the other side, we have to wait and see. I mean, it's looking like Porzingis is going to play. Holiday has been back. Jaylen Brown. I mean, now with Jalen Williams out, let's just say the Celtics are full staffed. Are you trusting Jaylen Brown tonight, thinking that maybe he has a bit of a softer matchup here?
Yeah, I am. I look, Jaylen Brown is someone that, so long as he stays under 9K, right? Like when he's in that 8 to 9K range, he's not always going to get there, but he's playing really good basketball. In my opinion, he's an elite player. Like I think he's an elite basketball player. He's just obviously behind Tatum, right? But I think that Brown has pretty much everything it takes to be a superstar in this league. He plays. I love watching him play. He just the way he plays basketball, man. So yeah, man, I'm firmly in play. This is this is gonna be a high octane game, right? Like it's gonna be fast paced. Like there's gonna be a lot of possessions here, a lot of opportunities. So even if they're full staffed, I think Brown is firmly in play. Yes, when they're full staffed, maybe you prefer him in that 78, 79 range, like a little bit cheaper. But in this specific matchup, and given like the kind of game environment I'm expecting here, two of the top teams in the NBA, I do think that he shows up for these kind of moments, right? So like because of that, I think it's okay to play him here this evening.
With Jalen Williams out, I'm even more into Shai Gilgeous-Alexander tonight. He's one of my favorite spend-ups tonight, even though, look, the Celtics are a good defensive team. They give up a lot of rebounds, though. You can produce against them. We've seen some teams, and even faster-moving teams. Like, I think back to a game that they played against Toronto, where Toronto came in half-injured and was just running them off the court. And I just remember I've seen it a few times with the Celtics team. Not like I'm doubting them once they hit the playoffs, but for now, and especially if no Tatum, then that makes things more interesting. But no Jalen Williams to me means Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to have the ball more in his hands. Chet Holmgren's shots are a little bit more protected because they're going to go to him from the arc a little bit. And Lou Dort, who I haven't gone to a lot, Lou Dort becomes an interesting value for tonight.
Yeah, Dort is someone that I went to a lot last season, and this year I really haven't been going too much, but he plays minutes. He's usually cheap. I think he's going to have an impact in this game, right? Like, given, Williams being out, especially on the defensive side, Dort's a really good defender. So I think he's a good value piece. I think he's a way that you can get exposure to this game with low ownership. And I also think that he's a value option that you can kind of pivot to from the chalkier options in other games. Given, there's a 236 over under here. It's supposed to be a high scoring game. I know they're two good defensive teams, but they're also two very good offensive teams. So you have to keep that in mind there. So yeah, I like the call on Dort myself.
Yeah, I was looking at him this morning. I'm like, wow, I can't tell you the last time I wrote up Lou Dort in a write-up. And last year, I felt like I was writing him up every freaking week. But here's the interesting thing. Alex Caruso just came up as questionable on the injury report, like about a little bit before our show here. And that to me made me even more interested. Let's talk a little bit about Dallas for a few minutes here, because with the Mavs, even though at this point they're a complete mess with a bunch of injuries, we can't ignore them. And especially in a matchup against the Spurs, which are a lot more vulnerable defensively than they were when Victor Wembanyama was involved. Bro, let me tell you, when it comes to someone like Najee Marshall, I'm going to continue riding it out with him, man. I've been coring him a few times. He runs the point a little bit more. I talked about that last night in the chat in Discord. Spencer Dinwiddie did a great job, and he's been coming off the bench, and he had a great game the other night. But when it comes to this Mavs team tonight, I feel like I'm all in on trusting Najee Marshall once again.
Yeah, I like Marshall. I think this is a good spot for him, like you mentioned. The only concern for me with Marshall is his price is starting to creep up, right? Like Now he's at that 7,500 price tag. Like that's where it's kind of the same thing with Grimes that we talked about a minute ago. Like now it's starting to get there. Like if he was still in that $6,500 range, we'd be having an entirely different conversation. For me, it's whether, and there's plenty of value tonight. So don't get me wrong. There's plenty of value. You can easily fit him in without a problem. But he now has to give you like closer to that 40 mark, really, to return value at that price tag. And I'm not saying that he can't get there, but for me, it's just like you're looking now at him having a really good game, where if he was in the $6,400 range, now you're looking at closer to 35, 37. I think it's just easier path for him to get there than it is that, 40 plus on a regular nightly basis. But I do like him. I do like the matchup. It's just a price thing for me when it comes to Marshall tonight.
What about Dinwiddie?
Yeah, I'm good with him at 5,700. Like he's going to get, opportunities. He's going to play big minutes. He's going to have the ball in his hand. So I prefer if you want exposure to this game. I feel like Dinwiddie is a little bit more appealing because his price is still in a range where he can get there on most nights.
I know you're down south in Florida, and I know how unattractive the Heat Clippers game is tonight. But I'll say this, thinking because the Clippers are coming off a back-to-back here, thinking that Kawhi Leonard is going to be sitting tonight along with Norman Powell. I mean, I'm loving the guards from both sides here. Harden, who had a big game the other night, and also Tyler Hero. I mean, when I'm looking at this game overall, I think those two plays, I'm not going to be relying on it too much this game, but those two plays are definitely going to be in my write-up.
Yeah, Harden was a core play for me last night. He came through really well. Listen, when these players are off the court, the kind of usage he's going to get. He's someone that could stuff the stat sheet. He could rebound. He's going to dish dives. He plays defense. Like the only problem is this is an unappealing game environment, right? Like that's the one thing, and he's priced up on the second out of back-to-back. Look, you can go there for sure. I think because of what you said, you have people that are usually consuming some of that usage off the court tonight, and I think that's going to benefit Harden in a big way. I don't know if I'm going to get there myself, but I do think that in these instances when they're off the court, Harden's always a solid play here.
And it's great that it's a back-to-back, Armando, because unless he's going dayside, you're depending on when they arrived in the Miami area. No strip clubs in South Beach for James
That's
Harden.
A concern for me, man. Like, if he got here last night, he could still be there right now.
No, he played basketball last night. There's no way he immediately got to Florida and then all of a sudden started to go to the strip clubs at 5 a.m.
The air of Florida is different, Fensty. The air of Florida is different.
I know, but if it was a day between, I'd be scared like crap because he's going out in South Beach.
Oh so yeah, 100%, 100%. If there was one day in between, it'd be a massive risk. Right? It's still risky. It's the one time where you're happy a player is coming off a back-to-back, James Harden, so he can keep his mojo to basketball and not to love it. Yeah, not to any other activities.
Yes, extra. Armando, talk about what's coming up for you on fantasyguru.com.
Yeah, like I said earlier, the NFL free agent tracker, we're doing that. Tyler Beaker, myself, we're usually doing the updates throughout the day. I'll be on the NBA article tomorrow, be in there in Discord as well. Mind the Marsal podcast. If you didn't watch it, catch the roster coach live stream from Tuesday. You can catch the replay there at fantasyguru.com. It was Tyler Beaker, Russell Clay, myself, all talking football, talking free agency, some of the trades that we've seen, giving our thoughts on some of that. And you can catch me at Fantasy Guru at all times. All my content is there for sure. So a lot of things coming. NFL rookie profiles coming very soon to the site. So keep an eye out for those. That's part of the franchise mode in case you already don't have that.
Do you write, because you're obviously putting some of these out before the draft, do you write what teams would be good fits for the specific rookie?
So in the rookie profiles, we do we do the pros and cons. We do kind of a little summary, overview of the player, and the ideal landing spot. We do write like projected landing spot, and then if it's not the ideal landing spot, the ideal landing spot for this player. I do sometimes in a section. Yes, I do that. Do include that in the thought process there.
Awesome. Mind of Marsal, part of the Elite Plus Network, 2 episodes a week. You go to the Elite Plus section, you click it, you scroll down a little bit, and there it is, Armando Marsal's podcast. Also, old episodes of this show, too. My podcast, once a week, Fensty's Basketball Diaries. New episodes drop every Thursday, generally, sometimes the occasional Friday episode, but you get that there as well. And this stream, too, and make sure you keep locking in to our NBA coverage in Discord, again, at Fensty in Fantasy Gurus Discord for DFS or betting. I'll have the write-up out a little bit later on. I'll have the bets later, and then you're getting the 3-headed monster for DraftKings. Armando, thank you so much, again, for getting the extra coverage to help out a little bit so I can watch my college, hopefully not lose, and make it to the big dance tonight here. So you'll have a 3-headed monster, me, Armando, Serge Singh, in Discord tonight, helping you out, getting you ready. 7:30 p.m. Eastern start time for the slate. I'll put some Betskis in there as well. For Armando Marsal, I'm Justin Fensterman, Ray Flowers, back tomorrow right here on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by the Elite Plus Network on fantasyguru.com. Good luck. Let's win.